Hey everybody, I get asked a lot, how do I plan out my trips before I go? And I see them on the Facebook groups and the other groups as well. There's a lot of new people out RVing and they don't know how to plan out their trip. And I see a lot of them actually using Google Maps, and Google Maps is not what you want to do. Google Maps doesn't take into account for the length of your RV, the height of your RV, bridges. It doesn't take into account that you're carrying propane, that you can't carry in some tunnels. It's going to try and track everything based on an actual car mileage. So you're not going to be able to do 70, 75 miles an hour down the highway in your RV, or at least you shouldn't be. So we're going to use RV Trip Wizard. Now, once I lay everything out into RV Trip Wizard, then I do put it into my Garmin 890, and that's what I carry in my truck with me. However, RV Trip Wizard will run off of a tablet inside your vehicle if you want to use it. The Garmin's pretty new to me, so I don't plan everything out on the Garmin yet. I'm not 100% comfortable with that the data is correct on it. Garmin's usually pretty good, but it does have a tendency to take you down some paths that you may not want. I do like RV Trip Wizard because I can store all my trips online. The ones that I've taken, I can archive them. If I need to pull them back, I can. I can plan out my whole summer on here so that I know where everything's at. And then it's a simple add to the Garmin, and it's a done deal. We're not going to cover adding it to the Garmin right now. We're just going to cover just the basics of using RV Trip Wizard to get information for point A to point B, gas stops, rest stops, making sure that you've got enough fuel, your mileage is going to go. All that kind of information we're going to cover in this real short video. Hey guys, this video is not sponsored by RV Life or RV Trip Wizard, but they were kind enough to offer a 10% discount and a 10-day free trial for anybody that's watching this video. So I was able to pick up Eisenhower State Park this morning, so I have it in here. Now I've got to plan out my route to it. So we're going to go to Eisenhower State Park. So we're going to grab this information and we're going to use it. We're going to come over to RV Trip Wizard and we're going to click New Trip. We're going to go ahead and plug in the name, and we're going to go ahead and leave the dates here, but you can plug in your dates for the day that you want to go. Now we're going to use my address right here, so we're going to say start here. And now it's going to bring up the settings and the stats screen. This is where you're going to build out all of the details about this route. So we have the name, it's active. We're going to go over to RV info. This is where you plug in your information for your RV height and your length and your total weight. So this is going to steer you away from bridges that you may not be able to cross. It's going to keep you on routes and corners where your length is not going to be an issue, and it's going to manage the height so that it can get under bridges that you can get under without damaging any of your RV. A lot of bridges on the East Coast, not a lot, but some of them may be as low as 9'6", so you got to be really careful with some of those. We're going to go ahead and look at the fuel information. I utilize this just to give me some warnings when I'm laying things out. But right now I have the fuel capacity at 24. My tank is actually at 26. My reserve is set at 1. My reserve is actually set at 2. So I give myself a little bit of headroom here. That way, if I have to route somewhere a little bit different, I'm going to be okay. My fuel economy is 10 miles to the gallon. This is pretty accurate. When I'm pulling my RV, that's about what I get around Texas. Now I'm going to come over here to the routing and driving information. Now this is kind of important. There are a few things that I do avoid, which is unpaved roads and ferries, but I can also add tunnels if I wanted to, highways and tolls. I plug in an average of 60 miles an hour. I've learned over RVing for the last many years that I've been doing this, that 60 miles an hour is pretty good on the highways. It's about average what I'm going to get from end to end. So that doesn't mean that my speed is only going to be 60. It just means that I'm going to average it. So when it's calculating time versus distance, it's going to use this 60 instead of the estimated routing through the map. I've learned that this is a lot more accurate. The other thing that I like inside of here is it gives me the abilities to add in boundaries, and you can use these for anything that you want. Personally, on short trips like this one, which is under 200 miles, I go ahead and lay this out so that I can see where my mileage is, because I've got it set at 100, 150, and 200. And the reason that I do that is because I know that I can make it 200 miles on my tank of gas. I'm going to go ahead and add a stop in here so that you can see it. But if I wanted to make this 200, 400, and 600, so maybe I have 3 gas stops, I could lay that out too on a further distance. The other thing it does is it gives me the boundaries and lets me know if I get into trouble and I have to turn around, I can get back quickly. It lets me know maybe where I want to take a break. Maybe I want to take a break, at 100 miles, which is halfway point, and things like that. And all of that's going to be dependent on whether or not you have kids with you, dogs with you, your wife with you, or if you're just hunking it solo. Some people like to lay it out so that they show where every 4 hours of their trip's going to land them. But for me, personally, I lay it out this way, and this is how it's worked well for me. I don't deal with the expenses, but on the expense tab, you have the ability to add in different expenses so it can kind of track it for you. So now that we have all this info laid out, and just so that you know, when you first set up RV Trip Wizard, these routing and info and RV info stuff is default in here, and it will save it for you so that you can pull it up each time. So let's go ahead and save the trip information, and now it's going to load it up. Now we told it we were going to start it at the house, so this is where we're going to be. And as you can see right here, so anywhere that I go, this is 100 miles. Now, if I had not switched this to advanced, if I would have left it at the classic, which is what it is default, it's going to give you a circle around each one of these and estimate 100 miles, 150 miles. When you use advanced, it's actually looking to see where that advanced information is. So when I look at my map over here, and this is a big deal because from the starting point to this section right here is 100 miles. But from the starting point to this section way up here is also 100 miles. So the advance lays it out based on the roads, and that's really important. The rest of this right here is going to show you this is your 150 mark and this is your 200 mark. So now that we have an idea of where we're starting from and our distance, now let's plug in where we're going. So we're going to go ahead and paste in the Eisenhower State Park, and it's going to pull it up. And this is where I want to go, so this is the correct one. So I'm going to select add it to the trip. And now I'm going to plug in the number of nights we're going to be there. I'm going to lock in the dates if you plugged in the right dates, and any comments that I need to make. And then I'm going to add it to my trip. So when I pull this out, I can now click on my address, and it will show me where it's going to take. So right here is my trip. It's just outside the 1 hour mark, so it's a pretty short trip. It's 115 miles away, and it's going to take 1 hour and 54 minutes. So that's a pretty decent distance right there. So now I know where everything's at. I've got my trip laid out. It shows me the route that it's going to take me, and these routes that it's going to take me are all safe for my size RV with the propane and stuff that I'm carrying. So I don't have to worry about that anymore. Now, if I'm on my way, I can come over here and I can tell it to show me where some gas stops are. One of the things that I like to do, I always like to get gas before I get to my destination. That way, if something goes wrong or if bad weather moves in or anything like that, I have a full tank of gas if I need to get out of there quickly. So now I need to search for some gas right before the campground, which is right here. So more than likely it's going to be somewhere around in here in Sherman. So I'm going to come up to filters, and since I have my POIs turned on, I'm going to go over here and collect points of interest. I'm going to look for Flying J's, truck stops. Let's see. Petros, I don't think there's going to be any of those in there. And we're just going to click fuel in general. So now that we have a bunch, well, we'll pull fuel off and we'll just do the bigger ones. So right now there's none of the bigger ones in this area. So now I've got to search for smaller ones. So we're going to click on regular fuel. So I'm going to look for a gas station that's going to be off of the highway on the direction that I'm going. So it looks like this is a bridge. I can't get off right there. So I'm going to backtrack up a little bit. Let's see, there's nothing closer. Actually, if I can get off right here, and I can take this service road and get gas right here. So this is the Shell station. The nice thing about this is that there's a couple of other gas stations around here. So if for some reason I can't get in there because the awnings are too low or I can't make the turns or anything like that, I have a couple of other choices to work with. But I'm going to go ahead and click more details on here, and I'm going to add this to my trip. When I add it to my trip, I'm going to add it after the brace stop, which is going to put it right in the middle. So we're not going to be there any nights. So we're going to click on add, and now I have a shell station there. Now, some people will like to go over to Google Maps and take a look and see what this area looks like. So we're going to do that real quick. So I'm going to go ahead and mouse over the shell. I'm going to click on the pencil to hit edit. And then I'm going to grab this street address right here. I'm going to jump over to Google Maps. And I'm going to plug that in. So here's the shell station. It does look like I can get off the highway right here. So that's verified. It puts me on the service road. I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to click right here. See, this is where it shows me the 3D view. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to be able to look at this shell station. So this shell station looks like it's really clean. There's a Burger King there. If I want to grab a quick bite before I get to the park, I can easily get in here and I can drive straight through and drive out right here. So this is a really good choice. So 1, I can get off the highway. 2, I can get under the awnings. 3, I'm not worried about any turns. And 4 is a bonus. If I need to grab a quick burger, I can. So this is going to be a nice little gas station for a gas stop here. So that's approved. I'm going to come back over here. We'll go ahead and lock that in. So now I have my trip planned out. I could go ahead and turn my filters off. And my POIs, I don't need them on my map. But that one's going to stay in there because that one is the one that we're on. So I have everything lined out to get me from my starting point to my ending point and gas right before I get in there. So that's perfect. Now that's it in the basics. So now let me show you one more thing. So let's say that we get close to this campground and all of a sudden we can't get in it. Maybe it's flooded, maybe there's some damage, maybe they accidentally booked my slot for another one. So now I have to find a campground that's close by. RV Trip Wizard will also let you do that. And this goes for if you're breaking out your trip into multiple days. So like when we came from Florida to Texas, I used RV Trip Wizard. I laid it all out. And then when I got to how many hours I wanted to drive. So in that case, my map was showing me how many hours I wanted to drive instead of my fuel mileage. Once I got close to how many hours I wanted to drive, then I came over to the edge of the map. Let's pull it up here. So let's say that we're coming down this highway right here, and we're headed east. So we need somewhere right in here where we're going to camp. So what I would do is come over here and I would turn on this icon here that shows me the campgrounds. Now look, right there off the highway. So this map is really sensitive to the magic mouse. If you barely even get close to the top of it, it zooms in and zooms out. But back to my point. So right here on Hugo Lake, I have 4 campgrounds that I can take a look at. Now this is the most awesome part about this. So if I wanted to just stay right off the highway and not deal with it, I could look and see what this campground is. So I can view it. This is called Shady Oaks RV Park. And it's like, okay, I might look at the park details. It's got all the amenities that I'm looking for. It's got a low dollar amount. But let's look at one of these. Let's look if I go right here to this one, Kamichi. So it doesn't have any of the amenities that I need. It's got power, it's got water, but it doesn't have full hookups for sewer. Is that a big deal? Not for me. I don't care, especially when I'm driving solo. So this does have what I need. So I'm going to go ahead and click Park Details. Now this is going to give me the information so that I can call and find out if there's even a room available. It's going to show me a satellite map, campground reviews, and this is all done through campgroundreviews.com. So it lets me look and see what everybody else has said about it. It's got a pretty decent rating, it looks like, based on 2 reviews. There's a bunch of information in here that you can use, value, service. It's all here. These guys have really done a well job of putting this together. But I can also click over here and look at the different features. I occasionally travel with my dog, and right now I am not seeing anything regarding pets. So I would want to make sure that if I needed to get pets, I can. Here's the other reviews, so you can look at what they think about. Here's tips information. I can also look at the weather and see what the weather's going to be like right here. So when I get there, say on Monday, looks like it's going to be a nice day and I don't have to worry about the weather coming in. So all that information's right here. And then if you like what this is, you can just add that right to your trip, either in front or after the next one. And just keep right on going. You can keep adding your stops, your rest stops and everything. So that's a real basic overview of how to use RV Trip Wizard. There's a ton more features in here, but I just wanted to knock out the bare bones basics of how do I get from point A to point B with a couple of little stops inside, and how do I get my vehicle in there, and how do I get a couple of gas stations if I need to. So I hope you find this information informative. If you do, comment down below and let me know, and I will go ahead and start adding a few more advanced features and stuff that you can do with RV Trip Wizard.